to Minecraft. There we go. So what we've done is, just to give you an idea of what's possible, if we're talking about culture, we could explore Scottish culture with children, clothing, currency, language, food, religion. If we're talking about language, you might think language, but the Scots speak English, but we didn't always. We spoke Gaelic, and it was a dying language until the 1960s. Very, very culturally important for us. In fact, it was only in the 1960s that it came back, and it was only really in the 1990s that we started teaching it again in schools. And even then, it's kind of way out there. People, yeah, I don't speak Gaelic because it wasn't, I was born in the 70s, and it was kind of like, I arrived in the world just as we were allowed to speak our language again. And so what we can do is we can look at our history. This is a medieval Motte and Bailey castle based on the real Motte and Bailey castle that was made in a city called Perth. Incidentally, it wasn't defeated by enemies. It was washed away by the River Tay, which basically flooded and washed away the entire castle. Luckily, the king wasn't in that day. But these are the sorts of stories that we can tell our children, and we can look at things like the flags and the clothing and the weaponry and the iconography and the fact that there's a Celtic crossover there, so we can look at the Celts and the Picts and so on, the famous broadsword, etc. But what if we were to say, well, how does something like that, how does that compare to something like, let me go down to somewhere like Pompeii. So if we were to go to our Pompey Toy Box and say, well, actually, we want to tell a very specific story, not just about the wider culture of a country, but what if we wanted to do something like tell the story of a city and a very fateful day in that city? I mean, we know lots of schools across the world that do Mount Vesuvius and Pompeii. And so what we've done is we've created, now, you might be looking at this thinking, oh, I couldn't create something like that. This is a beginner's course, and we're just about to show you how to build. Of course, keep that in mind. But really, we work with a lot of children, and we work with a lot of teachers who aren't proficient, or what they would call experts on Minecraft, and they build stuff for us all the time and say, look, I've just built Rome, I've just built this. In fact, I'll show you another Rome model in a second, which was built by students in a French school. But in here, in a box like this, we can create so many different lessons. So there's farming down here, and we can talk about Roman agriculture and their ability to bring water through aqueducts, so they could mass produce crops. We have religion and Roman religion. We have the poor sectors and the poor housing compared to the political forums inside, and how politics and democracy was born in Greece and Rome. And then if we look over at marketplaces and merchants, what did they buy? Who were they trading with? How did they link to the rest of the world? In here we have a gladiatorial arena, and if you press buttons like this button here, you could be the emperor, and you can press these buttons and it doesn't work. But actually what would normally happen is these little gladiators would appear. I don't know why that's not working. I'll need to fix that. And then we also have a school. And for those teachers who are watching, probably everyone who's watching, did you know that the pedagogus, the word pedagogy, comes from the name of a slave who was sent to school with children to make sure that they learned. They had methodologies that helped the children to pay attention and learn. They were also the only other person that was allowed to raise their hand to the child other than the parents. All of this learned with children throughout. We have a languages tree. So if we head over to the languages tree, we can look at the origin of root words. So the root word is com, which means together. If we look at the trunk and the branches, we have community. So to come together in unity, a group of people together, and so on. We have communal, communism, and we can start to look at those different words. We can even talk to NPCs, so we can see what Octavia has to see here. In this toy box, you can observe the city of Pompeii and its beauty. But what we can also do is we can run a piece of code which sets off the volcano. So I'm not going to show you that just now, because that's for our coding lesson later on in the month. But we can set off a piece of code, and this volcano will erupt, and it will interact with the city, and the people will flee, and the children can live that one day in history that we love to look at. We could be looking at the languages of the empire, for example, back then, the currency, the clothing, the religions, and so on. And so that's a kind of an idea of what's possible, and that's just our toy box curriculum. You can see from here that we've got executive functioning worlds, which are designed just for children with executive functioning disorder. This entire classroom is designed to help children to understand thinking methodologies and working methodologies. So for children with executive functioning disorder, table 1 is all about the big ideas. You have a project, your teacher's given you a task. This is the place that you go to. This is the digital space that you come to get your ideas together. What's the big idea? All ideas are welcome here. And this is your brainstorming space. Now remember, they're not going to use Minecraft all the time for this. What we're trying to do is help them to understand the process, because then they head to station 2, and station 2 is all about getting organized. How do we get organized? We have a place for everything. Everything is alphabetical, or everything is in a box, or everything is in a drawer. We have to-do lists, and we have maps, mind maps, and we teach those processes through the process of this Minecraft map. Then we do storyboarding. How do we storyboard? What's our journey like? Let's look at this plan from start, obstacle by obstacle, to finish, and so on. 6 is research. 5 is setting roles and setting times. You have 3 days to do this, and you have a total of 1 hour a day. So that's 3 hours. Let's see what we can do. We have reflection. We have a self-assessment and peer assessment, and so on. And this whole Minecraft experience is designed to teach children how to think effectively through problem solving and project-based learning. And it's hugely effective. We already have reports from teachers about children who are using these resources, and then they're getting to a point where they get a new project, and the kids are saying, I don't need to go into that Minecraft world anymore. First, to get my ideas together, then I'm going to go and get organized. And it's in there, it's done. We can even do things like, where are we? Let me go further down. What if we wanted to do biodiversity? What if we wanted to do something like garden biodiversity? Let's look at pollination as a concept. Let's look at insects. Let's look at the food chain in our backyard. And of course, some kids don't have a backyard. And even the kids that do probably don't know a lot about what's going on in it. And so what we do is we develop Minecraft worlds that allow us to take children into the backyard and look at flowers and look at nature. There's birds, there's insects, there's pollen, there's all kinds of things in here, and the children can explore this and do different projects on it. We can say to the kids, now you have the ability to go build a beehive, or go build a bird's nest, or show me what it looks like, the relationship between insects, mammals, reptiles and birds within the context of this space, and so on. Etc. So please, I'm looking at the chat, please feel free to put in any comments as you go through. And so the reason I'm giving you this brief before I then get you in and potentially playing with me if you are set up to do so, is because I think it's really important that we look at what's possible. And then finally, I just want to finish with our art world, just to show you what's true, because this was a challenge. This was a challenge that came from an art teacher a few years ago, and the art teacher, and he was quite right. I mean, I was showing Minecraft in his school, and he said to me, come on then, he said, you're not telling me this can be used for art. I don't believe it. And I'm an artist. My degree is in art. So I was like, challenge accepted. So what we did was we built an art museum. And in this art museum, we have curators. Hi and welcome. And then we have the signs that can give them, can you name any great artists, just to start with? And the kids are like, oh, Michelangelo, or whatever. Can you imagine a world without art of any kind? And then we've got a curator, and then what we've done is we've put some paintings in here, so you can go and you can get a ticket, and you can go to Michelangelo, you can go to Claude Monet, or you can go visit Pt1. And of course, I'm going to take you through them all. What we can do is, if we go into Gallery 1, first things first is we can look at old pictures. So this is the banquet scene in a Renaissance hall by Dirk Hals, 1628. And we can have a look at that in the context of other Renaissance artists, Adam, the creation of Adam, and so on. With the pearl earring, Johann Vermeer. And so what we can then do is, we can then discuss what it was that was most famous about this time and this era. So if we head into here and we talk to Michelangelo. Ciao, I am Michelangelo, an Italian artist who lived during there. So we can meet people. And then we can have a little look in a book. This is an old copy of this map. So I need to just get in here and get a book. And what we can do is we can look at our book and quill, and children can create. I'm going to do this later on in the month, but children can create books and quills, and they can create their own diaries or their own adventures. But then what we can do is we can look at the walls, and we can see that these are actually frescoes. This is a 1 to 17,000 scale replica of the Sistine Chapel. So when people say to me, what's possible with Minecraft? Anything is possible. Ignore the yellow. The yellow is actually an error. I'm going to have to show up when I'll be using this map later on in the month to show you a piece of code that we've used pertaining to this chest. I will have a better version of the map then. In fact, there has to be a better version because I want to show you this. It's really quite remarkable. There's got to be a better version. Art world, art world, art world. That's an old one which I can delete. There it is. This is the one. And of course, the lesson in there is that what we actually have there we go. That's it. This one's right. So this is the actual floor of the Sistine Chapel, is what it actually looks like. I got shouted at by an Italian guard because I tried to take a photograph in the Sistine Chapel once. And of course, this 1 to 17,000. So we're actually, or 17,000 to 1 actually. So we're really, really small compared to this. We're actually really big. We would technically be really big at this scale. But anyway, you get the idea. And the idea is that the children then paint the roof. So they have to then go up to the roof, and there's a little grid reference up here. And what they do is they get... they just take whatever they want. So let's just take this and this. And then what they have to do is they have to design their own fresco to go on the roof. And it's really difficult to build on the roof. What they can do is they can build, I don't even know what that is. I've no idea. But anyway, they can build on the roof, and it's really difficult. But of course, that's what Michelangelo had to do. He had to build on the roof. And so we tell the kids to design their fresco first. So they do a bit of pixel art, and then they go up on the roof and they do it themselves. So they're learning history and everything. Becky, thanks for answering that question. I'm trying to keep an eye on it, but yes. Let's have a look. So then we go into number 2, and we look at, no, actually number 3. Let's go in here first. Here's P.A. Mondrian. So again, with this art teacher that had given us a challenge, he said, you know, multiple artists, different art styles. So we did. This is what is this? Abstract. Here we go. Abstract art. So this one's called Composition with Red, Blue and Yellow by P.A. Mondrian, 1929. But here's the thing. The exercise for this one is that the children go inside a P.A. Mondrian. And when they come up here, they choose their view. And once they've chosen their view, so say, for example, that is their view, they then paint that. They take a physical piece of paper and they paint it. They just sit with their screen in front of them, and that becomes their P.A. Mondrian. Meanwhile, that's another child's P.A. Mondrian. And that's another child's P.A. Mondrian. And every child in the class does a different P.A. Mondrian. And so, then do, if I can find the door, there's the door. So this is another exercise. So it was like, right, let's have them paint P.A. Mondrians by being inside one and meet the artists, because the artists are there. And then finally, when we go in, we can see to this final one, we can see Claude Monet. And here's a wonderful picture of Claude Monet. Here's a brilliant one. So Claude Monet, 1912, Saint Giorgio Maggiore at Dusk by Claude Monet. But what we can then do, if we look at this one here, which is Woman with Parasol. I mean, this is really quite detailed. And if we zoom in on her face there, we can see how pixelated it becomes. But what we can then do is if we go outside, this entire time that you were in there, you were just the size of a fly. And the model, the gallery was just a model. And the P.A. Mondrian is in the cupboard, and the Sistine Chapel is in there. And actually, this is his real studio. And we have to find clues out about his life. So how do we find out who he was? There's a wedding ring over there, but it's not on his finger. There's a letter to someone. There's a cup of coffee. There's a yellow tulips. There's photographs. There's an old book. And we can meet him around the place. And then there's a class set of easels for you to do your own. So every child does their own impression of their own face. So they do their own. And these paintings are made up of thousands and thousands of blocks. And so I'm going to stop there with examples, and we're going to visit a lot of these examples again as the month goes by. But I needed to start there because if we start by just placing blocks, which we're going to do next, I'm just going to go back to the very front page. If we start by just building blocks and having you place 10 blocks and then take one away as a percentage and so on, that's great. But what it doesn't do is create curriculum and pedagogical vision. It doesn't allow for us to say to teachers, oh, and by the way, this time next year, you'll be teaching history, all of your geography like this. Because then they go, what, with a couple of blocks? I can't see it. So we start with vision. So I'm glad if that was helpful to you. I'm really glad that we were able to do that. Now, let's start, however, at the beginning. Let's start where we want everyone else to start. And there's a number of things that I want to cover. The first is, this is Education Edition, very specifically. And there's a number of things you have to keep in mind. Education Edition is accessible if you have an Office 365 EDU account. So that's really important. If you don't, you won't be able to access that. That said, anybody who has an Office 365 EDU account, even an A1 license right now, can access it for free through July. And so we're seeing a huge increase in the number of people going, oh my God, I can explore this. So the other thing to keep in mind is that if you have access to it and you don't ordinarily think you could use it at home, particularly during this period of isolation, you can, as long as you are able to log in to a device at home and you have an Office 365 EDU account, you can access Minecraft Education Edition. And if Becky's still watching, she'll very kindly put in the download link for Education Edition to our chats. Now, where are we? If we go for play, there we go. Thank you very much, Becky. What we're going to do is, once you've got it downloaded, I'm assuming some people out there will be with me right now on this going, yeah, I'm ready. Other people will be just watching, and that's fine. So we're going to click play. And then the first thing we're going to do is click create new. We're not going to go into worlds we already have because some of you might not have any. And then we're going to get two options. The first is templates, which is basically gives you templates for worlds that you already, so there's a Minecraft tutorial, there's a movement tutorial, there's a chemistry tutorial, and then there's some exercises and some biomes as well, like war motion biome and so on. I'm going to talk about that a lot as we move on through the month. But for the moment, I just want to start a brand new world and get you started. So we're going to click on new, and that's going to take you to this somewhat imposing page if you've never done it before. And so, the first rule of starting any game with Minecraft, particularly in the classroom, is to name it. Always name your world. Here's why. If you don't, it defaults to new world. And the number of times I've had teachers call me up and say, Stephen, I had this amazing world and it was DNA and the kids had built all these DNA strands and I can't find it. And I've got dozens of worlds, I can't find it. And I'm like, you named it, right? You named it biology class or DNA world. And I'm like, and they're like, no. So always name your world. I mean, you'll find it eventually, but always name it. Secondly, there are two game modes. The first is survival. We are not going to do survival because survival is not, it's not that I don't use it. I use it for, say, for example, I build a Viking world, but then I want my children to be Vikings in a live and like test environment where they play, two opposing clans of Vikings. I use survival for that. But to build worlds, to become a teacher who creates lessons, we're going to go into creative mode. That gives us, we don't have to worry about death. We don't have to worry about hunger. We have all of the resources we need to build lessons, and we pop that in. Permission level. This is only important if your children are joining you multiplayer. Now, I suspect they will be, but we're doing multiplayer much later on in the month. So for the moment, I'm just going to leave this on member. And then there are three world types. The first is flat, which is just basically a huge flat world. The second is infinite, which is what you see in this little window here with trees and mountains and lumps and bumps and topography. It's fantastic. And then the third is old. And the old world file is basically what you see in that window there, but it's contained within a box of 256 by 256 by 256 blocks. There's merit to using all three. The flat world I call my canvas world. And basically I create a world that is just flat because I don't want my children distracted. There's nothing worse than being in a world, hence the Toy Box series that you saw. There's nothing worse than being in a world and saying, right guys, I want you to build DNA. And they're like, oh, there's a cave. And they're off to the cave or they're off to the forest. It's just building a flat world. And that's what we're going to do today, just to learn movement and building. Infinite and old we will deal with in the next ones. And then what I'm going to do is just get you to, so we're going to select flat there. I'm going to get you to go further down, and I'm going to get you to make sure that always day is switched on, which means we don't have to worry about nighttime. And then at the very bottom, there is Show Classroom Settings. That's a toggle for more options. So you're going to click that and then scroll again, and you're going to see many more options. And it's here that we're going to switch on Perfect Weather. We don't need to worry about anything else, just perfect weather. And the reason for that is because rain and thunder can happen, and there's no need for it. And once we're done, so just to recap on that, always name your world: creative, peaceful, flat, always day, perfect weather. Play. You're going to click the play button and you're going to join me. And Jessica, yes, as Becky's correctly answered, you can do whatever. The incredible thing about the book and quill, and particularly the NPCs, which I'm going to do, there's a whole section on NPCs coming later on in the month, which is how to put commands and web links into them. And I'm going to show you some amazing stuff we've done with our World War I world, where the NPCs guide the story of World War I and the children follow that. I'll show you that later on in the month. But as you can see, I've made a world that is just flat. If I press escape, you'll see that we can go in and we can change some of our options, but ultimately there is just us and the world. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my mouse, and I'm assuming you're using a mouse and keyboard, because I am, but you may be using a controller, or you may be using a touchscreen device. Now, when I say controller, that's because Minecraft Education Edition allows you to take the controller and plug it into a PC or a Mac. So if I press escape and go into settings, you'll see that we can change the controls for keyboard and mouse, or check them. We can also take the controller controls, and you can see here if you had an Xbox controller plugged straight into a PC, you'd be able to play. And also touchscreen devices like iPads and Surface Pros and so on, you can play with on there. Kids and phones even. Kids are remarkable with stuff like that. But for the moment, we're sticking to keyboard and mouse. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my mouse to look around. Look right, look left. I can see animals. I'm going to look from the sheep and the chicken over there to the horse straight ahead to the pig. It's me just looking left and right. I can also look up to the sun, and I can look down at my feet on the ground. So this is like my head pivoting on my neck, just looking around, you know. Someone shouts you to the left, hello, you look to the left, so, hello, yeah, right, and so on. That's pretty straightforward. But then what we can do is, using my left hand and the W key, I can walk towards that horse. I'm just holding W. Now, you'll see that I'm just walking in a straight line, and the horse is walking past me. But if I want to go closer to the horse, I can use my mouse to look, and I can guide myself. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go round the horse, then I'm going to go to the next one. And you can see that just by using, all I'm doing is holding W and moving my mouse, and I'm moving around. Look up, look down, I'm still moving around. Now, what if I want to move? So I've gone too close to the chicken. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press the S key, and I'm going to go back. Press the S key, W to go forward. S key to go back, W key to go forward. Okay. For those of you copying along with me, that should be relatively straightforward. Now, I must say, if you are using, if you have a trackpad, I would advise you get a mouse. A trackpad is really difficult, and you end up breaking holes and things, and I don't use I can't stand it. Becky, thanks for answering that one as well. Yes, Julia, I will definitely post that out. There's a link, and you can find out where my next sessions have been, but yes, I will do that. I also have a 3-part masterclass, which is designed, I mean, all of my stuff will be follow on anyway, but I have a 3-part masterclass, which is join me, play with me, and we will do something over those 3 sessions to get to a set point that you've achieved something in Minecraft. So that was backwards, was S, W was forwards. If I then press A, I go left, and if I press D, I go right, I slide right. So let's say I was getting close to the horse and I wanted to avoid it. I could just press A and D at the same time as pressing W, just switching my fingers, and I can go left and right, left and right. I could then turn round and the horse is back there now and I could just go towards it. Left, right, zigzag, zigzag. Somebody's shooting arrows at me and I'm dodging. Okay. And the next thing is, and I'm just going to build something real quick to make this happen, but I'm just going to build some blocks in front. You won't be doing this quite yet, but what if I want to jump? What if I want to go forward and then jump? So you'll see that if I go forward, I can't get up unless auto jump is selected, which sometimes it is by default depending on your device. But if I want to get up there manually, I hold W, so I'm pushing against that lump, and then I press spacebar with my thumb, spacebar. That's me up high. So boing, spacebar is jump, okay? And then, here we go. And then I'm going to jump again and jump again. There we go. You see that? So that was really handy way of being able to navigate around. Otherwise, you might not be able to do that. We could even jump off, which just puts us that little bit higher. And that's going to come in handy when we're building. And then finally, for movement, is fly. Now, fly's a little bit more complex. So fly is we double pass space. We double tap space. And if we double tap space, it doesn't really look like it just now, but we are hovering. So we're not quite, we're kind of like, we're just above one block. And we're still blocked. And you'll see we're moving faster now because we're hovering. And of course, if I double tap space, I land again. Double tap to take off, double tap to land, double tap to take off, double tap to land. Now, if I double tap to take off and then I hold space, I will go higher. And I just hold space to fly. And then once I've chosen the altitude that I want, I then just press W and the controls are all the same. So I can just move around and see what's around. Now there's nothing particularly to see in this world. So I'm just going to go back. I'm going to look for the blocks that I placed. And when I get near them, I can do two things. I can press shift to come down, or I can raise myself up there. There we go. So press shift and go down, or there we go, double tap. Okay, now what we're then going to do is we are going to press, I'm going to get rid of these because I just want to show you building and destroying first. So what we're going to do is we're going to do E. The E key is your inventory. And where you might start is somewhere like here. You weren't going to necessarily be looking at the screen I was looking at. And that's because there are tabs at the top. In your inventory, you're able to see as all of the blocks, all of the materials, everything that you're able to build with. And so this particular one is all construction blocks. This next tab at the top is equipment. Then we've got items, then we've got nature. I personally don't find that helpful. I never use it. I just go straight to this one. This is your spyglass. And you start to, first of all, your spyglass, if you scroll, your spyglass will give you everything. So you want to build a grey shulker box, or you want to place a chest, it's in there. You want a potion of swiftness or a cooked chicken, it's in there. And you'll get to know those things as you go over them. But if we actually want to search, I'm just going to search for, in fact, let's get yellow. I like it's a lovely bright color, yellow concrete. So there we go. I'm going to click on that and you'll see that because I typed yellow, now I could have typed concrete and it would give me all the different types of concrete and concrete powder. But I can also say, actually, the theme I'm being asked to build is yellow and yellow wool, yellow concrete powder, etc. I'm going to take yellow concrete and I'm just going to left click on that and I'm going to move down to my inventory and I'm going to click, actually let me get rid of that as if it wasn't there. I'm going to click on yellow and I'm going to take it down and I'm going to put it in on there. Click. Because this at the bottom is your immediate inventory. It's not your backpack, it's your pockets, if you like. And you'll see there that it says 64, you actually have unlimited blocks in creative mode, but it has to stack in 64. So ignore the number if you're panicking about that. And then what we can do is you'll see that if I press or scroll my mouse wheel, press 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll see that moving at the bottom. all the way up to number 9. So in slot 1, I have yellow concrete. So let's just build something. Now, to do that, we have our left and right mouse buttons, which is, we're going to go left to place. So I'm looking, I've pointed my crosshair at a block and I'm going to go left. Now, to show you what that does, let me put one up here and say to you, you can attach a block to any visible side of a block. So I can put that on the bottom, on the side, on the other side, on the top of that one, on the side of that one, top of that one, and bottom of that one. And you can just keep building and keep building and keep building. And then to destroy, you press left click, left click, left click, left click. You just point at the block you want to destroy and you just destroy it until there's none left. So what we want to do is build something particular. So I'm just going to play around with a bit of a design. Then I'm going to show you some maths. So let's just do this. Let me see if we can. There we go. So you can build anything we like. Just in our heads, we think, right, what does this look like? What shape should it be? And how does that work? Now, here's a little hint for teachers beginning and first putting this out there. Think about graph paper. Think about using graph paper, squared paper. You get your kids and you give it to them and you say, show me what it is you want to build. Design that for me, because that's what we've just done. We've basically graphed this out. It's a series of blocks in a set pattern. And that's the beauty of of Minecraft, is it's based on a block world. So it's quite literally made for mathematics. And to give you an example of that, let me take another type of concrete. I'm just going to get orange concrete. And I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now to do that, if you're wondering about the build capability, all I was doing was going right click, pressing D, right click, D, right click, D, right click, D. And we could just do that. So that's me built 10 blocks. Then I'm going to destroy the last one and replace it with an orange. That was by pressing number 2, replacing it with orange. Basic maths, what percentage of those blocks is orange? That's a primary school maths, but it's brilliant. It's interactive. It's in there. It's done really quickly. Teachers, earlier on, Julie was saying, you know, how can we convince teachers that this is doable and it's worth doing? You know, you could do that on the whiteboard, but you could also just as quickly go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What percentage is now orange? 90%, sir. Brilliant. Well done. Now what percentage? Oh, that's a bit more confusing because it's in the wrong place. What if we were to do something like this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that one was yellow. Now what percentage is yellow? What if we were to do something like symmetry? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your line of symmetry. Show me what that looks like on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good, good. Now we have a line of symmetry and we can do lots of other types of symmetry. What if we did something like 2D and 3D shapes? Build a cone or build a cube. I mean, a cube's pretty straightforward. But what if we were to build a pyramid? So a pyramid would be slightly more complex. We'd have to do something like, that wouldn't work. It would have to be, that would be the closest we could build to a small pyramid, certainly. So there we have a pyramid shape. So we could do 2D and 3D shapes. And that's prompted me to take you to a maths world that I want to look at. And show you what is possible, because that thinking, that really basic thinking, becomes, it's in here somewhere, immersive mathematics, where we can put something out there that starts with pi castle. There's the symbol for pi. But then, if we really put our minds to it, and this was developed in association with some education partners, we built it, they gave us the curriculum, 2D and 3D shapes. or grid referencing, and I'll show you how they work in a second, but they're all fully formed lessons. What about symmetry? You don't have to build something like this. I'm going to show you the symmetry lessons and also tessellation. So let's start with symmetry. The kids come out of the pie castle and they go across this great adventure wonderland and they're super engaged. And remember, I know everyone knows this, but for me, it's very, very important that lessons in Minecraft are relevant, meaningful, and the engagement is just the precursor to impact. You know, a rainbow coloured pen engages children, but it doesn't teach them anything. So what we need is to make sure that when we build Minecraft worlds, we build them with relevance and meaning built in. It has to be engagement as a precursor to impact. And so what we've got here is we have our symmetry. Here's a basic lesson. Use 2 colours of wool to create a line of symmetry in a square or rectangle. Easy. You give them one side, the kids will do the other. What if it was a triangle? It wasn't quite the same shape. What if we used a pane of glass? Now, the thing about a pane of glass is it's the same lesson, but a pane of glass goes down the middle of a block. You'll see there that that block is actually split. So suddenly the pane of glass becomes our pencil. Now, if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we know that the glass goes down the middle of one of them, if we do that, it's wrong because you've got 3 full on that side and 2 full on that side. So that's not a line of symmetry. That's 3 versus 2. But if we do it this way, so that's 1, 2, middle, 1, 2. So this must be our line of symmetry. There we go. So if we do that, use glass panes to create a line of symmetry. What about finishing a pattern? Well, I just showed you that one back there, but finish a pattern. Take white wool and finish, and purple wool and finish. What about irregular but symmetrical shapes? Or we give you a shape and we give you the diamonds and you have to join them. We'll tell you when you're wrong, we'll tell you when you're right. Like this, for example. What about, kids love rails and sheep and stuff. What about showing me as there's our line of symmetry using rails? Challenge children to show you using their skills. What if we give you the alphabet and the numbering system and you use glass to show me which ones are symmetrical? It's funny because the kids didn't do C, D, or E when I gave them this. And when I told them that C, of course, was symmetrical, they were like, oh, yeah. And so is D, and so is E. But they were like, oh, we didn't see that. So they just didn't think about it. So fascinating to have that conversation with them. Now, if we then go to something like, we then have an assessment. So our assessment, here is a castle. Show us all the lines of symmetry that you can find. So there's one in the middle there with orange wool. But what if we take this black wool and say, look, that's a line of symmetry for sure. And there's a line of symmetry in each one of these, definitely. But there's not a line of symmetry across the way because there's only 2 window panes. And there's not symmetrical because if you draw the line from the bottom, the wool becomes our pencil, becomes our crayon. Draw the line from the bottom, it's not symmetrical. See? And so on and so on and so on. But if we move over to something like tessellation, you'll see that we've done the same. Tessellate or pattern make a basic shape. How do you then invert shapes to create better patterns? So that's triangles flipped over. What if you had a shape that didn't quite fit? You can still tessellate, right? You can still make patterns. Or you can use 2 patterns. It's the same thing, it's just there instead. What if you then had a really complex shape? How does this tessellate? What if this is a lovely one for Minecraft. If we take these 2 blocks here and we push them through to there, and then you see that coloured, and then we yellow them, we end up with that. We're then going to take these 4, and we're going to push them up like that. So you see that pushed up and then yellow them. We end up with this shape. It will always tessellate. Kids love that. Of course, I tell the kids, I wonder if there's one way that it can't happen. And they're like, oh, I'll find it. And then I get tessellation all afternoon. It's fantastic. And then we give them an assessment. Here is a blank, hollow, indented shape. Go tessellate. And then they have to do the maths because then they have to be like, okay, so if this shape is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this shape is 16 by 32. So I'm going to have to work out, and they go away and they do the maths based on what you've given them. Tetris. I just shout in the classroom, yellow, blue, green, green, orange. And then they play Tetris and they tessellate the shapes, which, if I take you to one more lesson before I finish for some questions, I'm going to take you to immersive education. I'm a big believer in giving children real world context. Minecraft is fantastic for real world context, and I'm going to show you later on things like our health and our refugee crisis stuff and so on. But in the meantime, I'm looking for a world called immersive education. There we are. And this is a world where we immerse children in real world learning. Everything from river pollution to logic gates, to wind farm electricity, to religious and moral education with mosques and cathedrals, to coal and fossil fuels. Down here we have memories, helping children to determine memories for children in care and with difficult backgrounds. We've got recycling, we've got engineering and vertical forestry, construction, you name it. We've got hospitals for health and so on, you name it, we've got it. But if we go down here, we have a storage facility. And inside the storage facility, the children are given a storage room. So this room here, this is their space, and each child is assigned a room like here or here. And then what I do is I deliver parcels. I deliver Tetris parcels, and the children have to, I just say, okay, special delivery. We've got a red, a yellow, a green, 4 orange, and 2 purple, go. And then the children have to tessellate, and they have a set number of seconds to do it. And the quicker they tessellate, then the quicker and the best way they tessellate without any gaps, I pay them diamonds. I basically go into here and I give them a diamond, and I say, brilliant, for every parcel you manage to tessellate successfully, I give you a diamond. And then they save. But here's the crux. If you play a longer game called Blockonomics, the children have a bank account, and they get, there's the bank, and they have a bank account. And every day I give them interest, but they also pay tax because they have to have a house. And depending on where they live, they may or may not pay higher or lower tax, because there's affordable housing, which is over here in these apartments, and then there's non-affordable housing, which is over there in the plots where they can build their own house. They take out mortgages, they pay for deliveries, they go to the cinema, they pay for public transport, and so on and so on and so on. We even have, and I'm just going to finish on this, a space. Let's go to the space show. Oh, that's amazing. So they go in and they speak to their little person. Here's a space guide. Hi, welcome. It's free. So then they go downstairs and they go, I wonder what we're going to see in the Space Museum. And when they get to the bottom, they meet their space guide, and they have the solar system, where we had children look at the planets, explore the planets, and only once they had done a presentation on each planet could they add it to their solar system. And so we started with the sun. And they made the sun, and then we moved on to Mercury, and then we moved on to Venus, and then Earth, and then Mars, and so on, and so on, and so on, until eventually, all the way out here in deep space, we have Uranus, all the way away from the sun. Now, it's not to scale. Actually, distance-wise, it is to scale, but obviously size-wise, it isn't. So there is nothing. Let me tell you the truth about this, and you're going to see this over the next month working with me. There is literally nothing we cannot use Minecraft to teach that is not interactive, engaging, impactful, relevant, meaningful, real-world learning. There's nothing we can't do. And so you've seen basic building today, how to start up a world, how to move, how to jump, how to fly, how to build. We'll go over all of this again and again and again as we play, but you've also seen what's possible. I'm going to open this up for questions. I'm free to hang around if anybody else is. I'm going to open this up. I know we were late in starting, so I'm going to give us all that time back. And I just need to know if anybody has any questions. I'll have a look through the chat now. I know that Becky's been very active. Anybody else? I know that, yeah, Mr. Mock is fantastic. He's a teacher in Wales who's doing some incredible stuff with Minecraft. If anybody wants to reach out to either Becky, who does incredible stuff in the Seattle area of the United States with Minecraft, fantastic lessons, both to accompany Minecraft and with Minecraft, and also Mr. Mock, Barry Mock, who is in Wales doing exactly the same. Julia, I see that you've said about graph paper suggestion is brilliant. We do a lot of stuff with that. In fact, we do things like, if I just jump back into the world, let me just go ping. So for something like, let me just show you, we do plan elevation, side elevation. So quite often we'll say to the kids, before you build that, I want you to appreciate its 3D space, its 3D shape. So I want you to do something like, if I get white wool and I just do that, I say, right, let's build that as a plan. So plan would be looking down on it. That's easy, right? And then we're going to do an elevation and we're going to do a side elevation. That's easy, right? What if I did that? Suddenly, the plan is not quite the same because Minecraft doesn't give you it in a isometric view. But looking down there, we've got 3 by 2. And then from the front, we would have, effectively, if you could see that directly from the front, you would have 2 by 2, just like you did before. But suddenly the side view looks different. And what if we gave it a chimney? And what if we gave it a tunnel? And what if, and what if, and what if? And suddenly the children are just scribbling furiously, doing quick sketches, and then they're doing, you know, proper plan elevation, side elevation, just whatever it is that they can possibly. Then there's the DNA. I was talking to you earlier about DNA. I had them plan this out first. This is not easy. This was 11-year-old children who were building DNA strands, and they realized that they were going to have this loop just using white wool all the way around. But then inside, they were going to have the joinings, the pieces, the little, I can't remember what they're called because it's been that long since I did biology. But the kids actually signed this and the signs are gone, so that's a shame. But yeah, in there. Later on, I'll be showing you human body parts, and we'll be able to show you things like the human lung system and the human kidneys and how they actually work using this during my redstone one. I'll show you that, etc. What about forestry, deforestation, forest fires, renewable energy, save our forests, etc. Let me go back into the chat and see who else is asking stuff. No problem, Julia. Thank you. Jessica, for grades, I tend to talk in ages because I work internationally, and so it's difficult for me to say, you know, American grades compared to Austrian grades compared to UK grades, for example. But I tend to work, we work with 7 to 17-year-olds, but we tend to find we have the most impact between 7 and 14, and particularly around 10 to 12 years old. Younger kids love it, and you can do so much amazing stuff with it. But if you want the truly project-based learning, juicy stuff, you know, the stuff that's just like, you know what, so I got so much out of that Egyptian project, it's usually with 10 to 12-year-olds. Yes, precisely. And actually, there is a world available. Let me think about this. Actually, let me see if I can find it for you. It's in the library, I'm sure. Save and exit. This is a good excuse to show you View My Worlds. And then we're going to go into, no. We're going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to click on play. Someone's asked about dinosaurs. So we're going to go on play. And then we're going to go to View Library. And inside the library, you'll see that there's lessons, there's monthly build challenges, there's biomes and worlds, and there's also how to play, but there's also educator resources, and you can go and find out what other educators have been doing. I, however, I'm going to look for biomes and worlds, and then I'm going to look at featured worlds. We're unable to connect to the library. That's interesting. Oh. My computer is definitely not offline. That's impossible. We're also not able to get into there. Oh, that's a shame. Let me restart Minecraft and just see if that makes a difference. I'll be back in a second. I'll stop sharing and I'll start sharing again in a moment. It might be that I haven't shut Minecraft down for like 9 days. But I'd love to show you this because there's a fantastic dinosaur world which you can find out. I don't have a list of worlds available. You would need to go in and have a look at what's on there. You can, however, go to education.minecraft.net. I haven't put the HTTP in there, but if you go to education.minecraft.net and you explore there, you can also see in there, set up an account, get access to the worlds and so on. Come on, Minecraft, start. And there's more worlds coming all the time. for one, and other developers out there are developing worlds. There's the International Space Station that's just been released, where you can literally be in space. We've just released 7 esports worlds where the children compete with timers and so on, and there's assessment rubrics, and you can have the children sort of collaboratively, competitively compete to show what they've learned through esports style competitions, all in Minecraft worlds. So we're just gonna almost logged back in. The esports were just launched today, so look out on the Playcraft Learn. If you just go onto Twitter and follow Playcraft Learn, you can find out what's going on there. Now, let me see if I can get into this library. Now I'm going to share my screen again. I'm going to share that screen and then jump to Minecraft. And then go play, view library, lessons. Nope. Biomes and worlds, featured worlds. There we go. And then in featured worlds, there we are. So there's a 3D print world. Here's all the make and model pirate, make and model space race, make and model splat racers. If you want to do a virtual graduation, you can do one up there. We've also got Into the Great Trench, where you go underwater and you find out about the sea. There's the human eye, explore the human eye, the mindful night, which is great for social and emotional learning, and the voyage aquatic, which starts in a fish tank in your yard. But what else have we got? It must be in lessons. Hang on, maths, science. Is it science? In science, we have We Are the Rangers, where you can go to Africa and you can see elephants and giraffes and stuff. If you go to Instinct Biodiversity Crisis, this is the one. If we go to Instinct Biodiversity Crisis, we can go on an extinction safari. And the way you do that, let me just go back there. So let's go back to the beginning. We're going to go lessons, science, extinction biodiversity crisis, and then we're going to click on it and we're going to click create world, and it says preparing to import. It's all yours. It's immediately there, immediately ready for you. You can look down at essential questions, student activities, assessment, and so on. But what we're going to do is, there it is. It's taken us in, initiating the world template. And in here, this was made by a colleague of mine called Adam Clark, who does some incredible big vision stuff. And what you do is, traditionally, you would get yourself into a minecart, and then you would meet the scientists, and they would say, welcome to Extinction Minecraft Safari. You are now about to see some of the most charismatic species that have lived throughout human history, but are probably dead. So we're going to click on there, and we're going to press this button. And it's at this point that we go whoosh, and we're off. And we can start to go around, and we stop at different stations. There's a mammoth, and there's a giant elk, and there's a saber-toothed tiger skull. And the kids love this because the kids are like, oh, how do I get there? And we get there by just traversing around this world. And when we get to different stations, we'll find out about them. Now, I'm just going to jump out, and I'm just going to fly over and find out what some of these things are. So there we go. Here's one of the stations down here. So we get to this giant, what is that, an emu skeleton? Well, emus are dead, aren't they? Like extinct. I shouldn't laugh. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's the moa, of course. Is it the moa? I bet that's what it is. Sir Richard Owen holding the first discovered moa fossil and standing with a Dinornis skeleton, 1879, and there's a picture of him. And then we can go in and it's the moa. And we can find out from the moa, we can learn more by going to the internet, and we can find out more about this amazing creature. And then we can go off to something else. There's the sea cow over there, isn't there? The manatee. Is it manatee, sea cow? The rhino. Did we not just lose those this year? And so I'll stop this world there, but that's worth checking out, definitely. If you're still around. I know we went over time, but I want to just give you the time back that you lost. Any further questions? Because if not, I will stop there and we can. Good, Mary, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Do now go and play. I'll tell you what to do. Follow me on Twitter as well. I'm just going to put in my Twitter, Stephen Reid EDU. Follow at Stephen Reid EDU. Yes, there are a bunch of things to get started. If you just Minecraft YouTube, but if you want to see more videos that I've done, visit. I just did a series when COVID started. It was just before I joined Microsoft. I did a whole series. I did 2 streams a day for about 25 days. So there's a lot of streams, and it's on everything like learn to play, know your settings, redstone. I mean, it'll put a lot of it I'll be doing over this next month, but by all means, check out http:// and then it's YouTube. It's a whole YouTube series, youtube.com/c/immersive minds. There we go. And if you put that in, you type, I almost got that wrong, pop that in. I haven't done the www. Sorry, I got that wrong. But if you just check out, in fact, no, you know what? It's important to get that one right because nightmare. There we go. youtube.com/. There you go. Try that. That didn't work either. Oh my goodness. Anyway, you get the idea. Go check out youtube.com/c/immersive minds, and you'll see huge number of videos in there for logistics. I did whole series on just renewable energy. We did the refugee crisis. We did so much stuff. Check it out. Anything else? And if Kathy's still with us, Kathy, thank you so much. Kathy Karnowski, thank you so much for rescuing me. I hope that as we go forward, that won't be an issue anymore. Apologies. Great, thanks so much, Mary. That is us. That is exactly the link. Thanks. Fingers like cows' udders. That's the problem. I can't type properly. So I'll just finish then on my final thought, which earlier was, yes, Letitia, the kids have to have Minecraft to play, Minecraft Education Edition specifically. I mean, you can still do education stuff with Bedrock Edition and also with regular Java if your kids have it. But if they want to interact with our worlds and the stuff that I showed you today, it does have to be Education Edition. And so if there's anything else to say, it is purely this. Back to Julie's point at the very beginning. Genuinely, I've been educating for over 20 years now, 10 of which I have used Minecraft to teach. And I can't say this enough. Of all the technologies, cameras, podcasting, animation, filmmaking, even other games, because I do a lot of game-based learning, Teams, OneNote, Flipgrid, whatever. I love them all. I do. I'm a technology advocate. But Minecraft is the tool to reach every single child. And if you can just help your teachers to understand that through sessions like mine, good content, brilliant content, vision, kind of this is what's possible content, honestly, it's career changing. So thank you for joining me. It's testament to your desire to use it. Let's do this together. Let's go through this journey this month. And by the end of it, let's hope that everyone is ready to start. Have a great day wherever in the world you are and stay safe. Thanks, everyone. Bye.